your first initial feelings, like the rest of us, when you saw that horrific footage of George Floyd?
Hi, Holly. Look, for me, there's one resounding question that emanates from the frustration that I feel many people, the anger, the pain of the continued dehumanization of Black lives and the hands of racism, because that is what we saw. And that question is, when will white people progress? And I'm not just talking about the US, I'm talking about the UK as well. I'm talking about the fact that there's a lack of fundamental understanding of what racism is, as a power construct created by white nations to deny an equal value of life and liberty to Black people for the benefit of white people. It doesn't mean all white people are racist. It means white people have privilege. It means institutional racism is entrenched in society. So if a white person does not use their white privilege to stop the racism perpetuated by other white people and institutions, it is because their way of life is predicated on the denial of an equal value of life and liberty for Black people. And you know what's sad, Holly, is that there are going to be some white folks listening to this truth I've just spoken, who will be very uncomfortable about it. And it's the reasons for their discomfort that differs. There'll be white folks who hear this truth, and immediately this will be a wake-up call that, oh my God, there's so much more work to be done.
It's what needs to be done then. Do you need to, if you are feeling uncomfortable hearing this now, do you need to look into that uncomfortable place and understand or learn the reasons why you're feeling uncomfortable? Because there's a reason for that. Does it start there?
So I am not feeling uncomfortable, but for the white folks listening to the truth who are feeling uncomfortable, as I said, some of them will immediately see this as a wake-up call that there's so much more work to be done. What can I do? While other white folks will be immediately enraged by it and seek to whitewash the oppression of Black people as their own so that they can call us anti-white. So yes, the question is, when will white people progress to the level where they understand that there is no such thing as reverse racism by Black people and generations of white people, because there is no power construct to make it remotely feasible for Black people to deny an equal value of life and liberty to white people. So white people have never experienced racism, not yesterday, today, or tomorrow. Prejudice, like all of us, yes. Bias, like all of us, yes. But racism, heck no. If a white person had ever experienced racism, it should have ended 400 years ago. So what needs to happen now is to end the weaponization of whiteness on our streets, in our schools, in politics, in the workplace, in the justice system, in the economy. Because it is when we start that ending of weaponization of the whiteness that we can start to talk about solutions. So the question to which the solution is the answer is, when will white people start to progress? Because think about it, in the UK, if we do not end the weaponization of whiteness, we will continue to have the Russian Charles, the Sean Riggs, the Sarah Reeds, the Stephen Lawrence. And in the States, we will continue to have the George Floyds, the Breonna Taylors, the Ahmaud Arbery's. This has to end. Yeah. It has to end.
Absolutely.
There are just some of those names that you mentioned there, Dr. Shola. Ahmaud Arbery, 23-year-old Black man, shot dead by 2 white men in America in February. Amy Cooper last week in America, a white woman called the police after a Black man in a park innocently asked her to put her dog on a lead. And so the stories continue. Yeah. And just briefly, Shola, with you, you say that you were angry, obviously, and you were also exhausted because this fight, this 400-year fight, must be exhausting for everybody.
Yes. And then having to explain it. It's because, you see, Phil, the overt and covert racism is excused by many. The institutional cover-up of racism is blatant and staggering. You see, that is why I said racism is a power construct that is not controlled by Black people. It's not controlled by people of color. It's controlled by institutions controlled by white people, which is why we need our white siblings to come in to the fold and exercise their privilege to stop the racism perpetuated by other white people and by institutions, to not allow this continued narrative that when we speak out against the oppression we experience of racism, to not allow that narrative of saying that we are anti-white, to not allow the narrative of making us to whitewash our oppression so that it can be owned by white people. I mean, you've never heard of reverse anti-Semitism, have you? Have you ever heard of reverse homophobia or Islamophobia? But there are people in these marginalized groups who speak out against the oppression. So why is it that it's the oppression of Black people that is immediately whitewashed, appropriated immediately in order to turn our pain, our frustration, our anger, our suffering into somebody else's own? The weaponization of whiteness must be recognized as part of the reason that systemic racism continues.
Let
The
me,
fact that, for instance,
let me use that.